What's going on YouTube? JT's your boy here, and welcome back to another edition of my DC comic book reviews. And in today's video, we're talking about Batman Detective Comics, issue number 1042. This one is written by Mariko Tamaki, and the backup is written by, who was that again? Matthew Rosenberg. So that's the intro to the Task Force Z comic book. That's going to be like a Jason Todd focused thing. It's going to deal with zombies and all that other fun stuff. So that's what the backup for this thing's for. So this is basically the conclusion to the Hugh Vile storyline that's kind of like been going on for the past couple months in Detective Comics with tying into Mr. Worth, Mayor Nakano, and this really parasitic infection thing that just kind of reminds me a bit of the T virus from Resident Evil, this vicious thing. And I like this conclusion. I actually thought this is a pretty decent conclusion because the last arc in Detective Comics felt kind of abrupt, but then we had like this thing, which is like kind of the conclusion to it. So this feels like the real conclusion to the whole like Hugh Vile arc going on here. Obviously, Mr. Worth was still around, but like this one in particular actually does kind of a bit of a conclusion, while also kind of setting the stage for more horrific things to come per se. But yes, let's go ahead and summarize what happens. Basically, at the end of the last issue, which I think I just covered over the weekend, and everything's just kind of moving at a quick pace now. Batman is basically infected by the parasite of Hugh Vile, was by Penguin and Mr. Worth, because Mr. Worth just wants to get back at Bruce Wayne and Penguin. How he does not realize that Hugh Vile was responsible for what happened to his daughter is beyond me, but he's blinded by rage, so he doesn't think. And so Batman just goes full carnivorous thing here. Looks like Cthulhu coming right out of his mouth. I thought the image of Batman here looks like, this looks awesome. Like, this is an awesome look for Batman right there. The little tendrils and tentacle things coming out of his mouth. Looks like something straight out of a nightmare. I thought it was pretty good. So anyways, Penguin betrays Mr. Worth after all this virus and stuff kind of goes chaotic. He gets the hell out of there. Batman, who is now controlled by Hugh Vile, goes straight after Mr. Worth. And he tries to stop him, but because Batman's kind of been somebody who's been, I guess, hit with so many different toxins and all that stuff, he's able to kind of resist it because his body's built up a bit of an immunity. And basically, Huntress comes in. So, like, something happened that was tied into the Secret Files Huntress thing, which I will be covering that issue along with the two other, like, Secret File issues. I realized I actually kind of missed those in covering all the Batman books. There was a Duke Thomas one, there was a Clown Hunter one, and the Huntress one. I actually read the Huntress one. So I was reading this issue today, and then I went, okay, I gotta go back and read this Huntress thing and figure out what's going on here. So I read the Huntress one, then I'm going to talk about, I'll talk about this issue, the rest of it, then I'll go ahead and make a video on the Secret Files, the Huntress one, because I want to kind of get a video out there on that one. Then I'll go ahead and talk about the Clown Hunter one and the Duke Thomas one, because, I mean, those ones are a little bit older, but I really want to kind of get those things out there, because I miss talking about them. So, basically, he's able to kind of help Batman, Hugh Vile, because he had infected her. We kind of see more of this in the Secret Files Huntress issue, written by Tamaki as well, where we really get to see kind of the lingering effects of Hugh Vile infecting her and how, like, Huntress is able to kind of see things. It's like she's kind of somewhat linked to him. Like, there's a little bit of a connection. Like after the infection kind of left her body, she's able to see, like, the perspective of other victims, and without him kind of realizing it. I've kind of seen this done before. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Where I've seen something kind of similar to this, where you have a bit of like a psychic link or some sort of link to the victims. And so she gets there and she decides to shoot the infection like straight out of him and just kills the thing. And you see his body basically kind of decompose. She sends flowers to Deb Donovan. So I think this is right after the whole like right before the Task Force Z storyline with Deb Donovan, which is in the back up there. So she sends some flowers her way. The conclusion of the arc kind of ends here with the morgue situation. We see all these eggs and disgusting things kind of coming out of his body, but they seem to be kind of moving, and they don't really seem to do much with it. Like, why they don't report it, I don't know, or do anything. Like, okay, also, is there a sewer in the morgue or something? I don't know. Like, this it's kind of leading to Pure State, but it kind of leaves a little bit of a lingering threat for them to kind of approach later on. So that's the end of that one. And then we get the kind of Task Force Z thing, which is continues right after the events of the last thing. Again, this is the Matthew Rosenberg thing that's going to set up to that book right there. So Deb Donovan is working with Jason Todd on something that is called Project Halperin, and they're trying to figure out why all these bodies are kind of being taken and how Astrid Arkham's body seemingly disappeared. We also see a bit of a rivalry between Deb Donovan and Vicky Vale. First, I'm like, who is this? I'm like, okay, that's Vicky Vale. Deb Donovan's kind of like, she kind of goes to places where Vicky is not necessarily going. Like, Vicky Vale, like, in some ways, kind of reminds me a bit of like a Lois Lane type thing, where she's kind of out and doing the more glamorous stuff, whereas Deb is just kind of like more of a street-based character, and it kind of makes sense why she would associate more with Jason Todd. And there's some funny stuff with her in here. Like, I forget, was she created by Tamaki? Like, if so, she seems like a nice, kind of interesting character who has a bit of a nice, like, comedic, in some ways, dynamic with Jason. And she's always constantly swearing, so she's definitely really relatable in that way. I mean, one thing I've noticed from the Tamaki stuff is that you don't typically see in so many comics. Well, I mean, at least in some of the main Batman books, is there's a lot of potty mouth in it. Sometimes I don't even know what they're actually like saying because there is so much swearing and it's censored. I wish at this point they would just kind of like uncensor the letter so I know what swear words they're using. I mean, I can pretty much guess for most of it, but sometimes it's just like you penguin, and I'm like, is that you penguin? Fuck, I don't know. Like, what is he saying? Just kind of little bits of that kind of annoy me if you kind of do a little bit too many. But yeah, so she kind of sees this thing. They see him going after bodies. Jason's there. There's a bit of banter between the two of them, and they get into a little fight. And she's ready to call the police, and then she gets knocked out, leaving on a bit of a cliffhanger. So I think that's going to lead right into the Task Force Z comic book. And that's going to pretty much be all the stuff that happens in this issue of Detective Comics. Now, in terms of the conclusion to the Hugh Vile arc, I thought it was kind of a bit of a... It felt a little bit quick, I'm not going to lie. But I'm just kind of glad that we kind of like got to the end of this arc and they did so in an interesting way. Because Hugh Vile was like kind of reminded me a bit of like a Wesker from like Resident Evil. And I liked the parasitic element to it because I thought that kind of felt a little bit like... It felt like more like a horror thing, and I'm definitely more of a horror type fan. So I like seeing the parasitic infection kind of go and like leave a grasp on the city and like how it can just kind of be anywhere. I thought that was kind of a nice touch. I like how Huntress was the one to kind of wrap this thing up in a way because she had her little special issue going on there, like the secret files thing, and she had like I feel like this really close connection to what's going on with the whole Hugh Vile thing, and it made sense. She deserved to be the one to kind of get the win here, and it was nice to see Huntress kind of get showcased in a pretty, I guess, a pretty decent arc for Detective Comics. Mr. Worth is still batshit insane. Uh, like he is just anger all the time, 100% of the time, and I kind of laugh a bit whenever he kind of does this stuff. Penguin stringing him over like that should lead to something interesting. He's going to get into a fight with Penguin at some point, so I'd like to see that conflict kind of continued. Mr. Worth's still kind of blinded by rage, is still kind of stupid in some ways, but he is just nonstop like pissed off, and I kind of love that about him. The artwork itself was quite good. I especially loved the horrifying little images of Batman with this parasite in there. Like this image of Batman here, it looks cool. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like Swamp Thing, or not Swamp Thing, like Man Thing or something like that with the little face like that. I thought that was kind of neat. So yeah, we got that little bit. We got some horror elements to it. We got a decent conclusion to it. Or it looks kind of like something like Lovecraftian with the design here. It definitely feels like Cthulhu with like coming right like Cthulhu fused with Batman. I think that's a cool concept. So yeah, I like the conclusion of this one overall. I thought the art was pretty good. The art isn't quite like as strong to me as some of Dan Mora's stuff, but I thought the art worked quite well for this issue, and I like the way it kind of wraps up. The Task Force Z one is I like I kind of like the dynamic between Jason and Deb Donovan. The story itself, it's just kind of okay, mainly because we're just kind of just getting like the setup to this whole thing. I will be checking out the Task Force Z comic book, and I actually want to see kind of more of this dynamic fleshed out a bit between these two characters. I like how Jason just kind of casually just doesn't give a shit. He kind of looks a little bit like Daredevil with his little headpiece right there. That he's kind of wearing over his face, and just casually just having a burger, and then he's like, I don't care. This town's crazy enough with all these different people. Nobody's going to give a damn if I'm just going to be like casually eating food here, like in this restaurant. I thought that was it's kind of fun. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to that thing. The backup story was just kind of okay overall to me. I like some elements to it, but I just kind of gotta wait and see where things go from here. So yeah, that's all I really have to say about Detective Comics number 1042. I can't really think of any major issues or complaints I have with it. The artwork was good. It wrapped things up in a pretty decent way, and I thought this arc was fine. So we'll see where things go from here. Next is Fear State. I will be talking about the Huntress issue next because I haven't really gotten around to talking about that or the other Secret File issues that came out in like the last 2 months or so. So look forward to those. All right, well, that's all I got to say. Thank you all so much for watching this. As always, like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content, hit the bell for notifications. And yeah, that's it. Take care now. Bye-bye then, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.